Glenn Davis, Scenic Designer and Scenic Manager for Willow Creek Church. Today's Scenic Quick Tip is how to create a curved wall. Now, I just finished up with a project in creating 10 curved walls for the Summit Leadership Conference that's coming up. In order to create the curved walls, I have to create a upper and lower plate for my 2x4s or 2x6s to attach to. This particular project, we were using 2x6s. Now, this particular radius is a 23-foot radius, and let me show you how I come up with scribing this. On the floor, I put a screw, and I have an attachment point. I'm having to use aircraft cable. You could do the same thing with a string or chalk line. And we make the attachment point on the floor. And then from the floor, we measure out, for example, like this plate that's 23 feet. We measure all the way out to 23 feet. And this is where we put our sheet of plywood down. And we want to be able to scribe from one corner of the plywood, the length of the plywood, which is 8 feet, from one corner to the other corner. And so once it's set up, you scribe your first line. You put a magic marker or pencil and scribe it onto the plywood, and then scribe your next line, which, depending on what type of studs you're using, 2x4 or 2x6, you would scribe that the same width. Now, in order to hurry up the process, instead of scribing all the sheets of plywood, I would just create that one as a template, and then from there on I would cut that out, make sure I cut it really well. And there's a couple thoughts on how to cut plywood while I'm on the subject. I use a skill saw, power skill saw, instead of a jigsaw. It tends to, or you're able to cut the line much better, leaves the curvature just much smoother. And so you use that as a template, and you start scribing that on the 4x8 sheet of plywood. Now, for us, some of these curved walls were 16, 18 foot long. Instead of making one curved wall, I made sections. So the particular section that you see back here, they're about 7.5 feet long, and what I did here is create a face on these 2x4s to make them strong. So I'm using a 1/4 inch OSB onto the studs, and now they're ready to assemble, just like Tinker Toys. You assemble them, they're manageable. It's not like trying to move an 18-foot wall, but they are in sections. Also, if you're planning on reusing those, that's a great benefit because you can take them apart, store them much easier than storing a larger wall. If you'd like more information, you can contact me at gdavis@willowcreek.org or willowproduction.org or scenicdesigner.blogspot.com.